So it's no secret. You need to exercise. All of us need to exercise to be healthier in general, to avoid medical problems, to not be injured, to be able to do the things that we love to do and live an active lifestyle. In this series of videos, I'm going to talk to you specifically about where to start your exercise program, how to keep your exercise program going for years to come, keep yourself motivated, that sort of thing. And I'm going to talk about what exercises specifically you should be doing to ensure your long-term success. In this first video, I'm going to go through starting an exercise program. So you know you need to start, and if you talk to anybody who's been successful at adopting a healthy lifestyle or really turning their lifestyles around and adding activity into their lives, the most important step they ever took was starting right away. The catch is, if you start in the wrong place, you're unknowingly creating obstacles for yourself later. So what I want to talk about today is exactly where you should be starting today to make sure that you are going to be successful in the long run and you don't come across some of these obstacles that are just so easy to avoid. Specifically, I want to talk to you about the bulletproof starting point, how to actually build your schedule properly so that you're doing the right things at the right time, and how to make sure that what you start with is building towards your long-term goals right from day one. Before we go too far, I want to make sure if you're watching this video that this video is suited for you. Now, if you're looking for how to lose 30 pounds in 10 days or 3 exercises that are going to give you ripped abs or all of the other things that we see on TV that big media companies are pushing, this is not the place for that. I am not in the business of selling false promises. So if you only have 5 minutes a day and you want the 3 best exercises to give you the long-term goals that you're looking for, then you may as well leave now. If, however, you are interested in learning how to exercise properly and you're dedicated to implementing it and being accountable for yourself and for your own goals and really building yourself a lifestyle, then you've definitely come to the right place. My name's Greg Lothian. I've been an athletic therapist and a strength and conditioning specialist for over 16 years. I've worked with thousands and thousands of people from all different walks of life on all kinds of different things, from injury rehab to high performance training and everything in between. And I can tell you the single most important thing for you to be successful, whether it's just for fitness or turning your life around or adopting a healthy lifestyle, is to have a plan. A plan has to have an end goal and it has to have a starting point. Today we're going to talk about your starting point, how to build your schedule, and make sure that you're going to be successful in the short term and enjoy what you're doing. And that will lead you to building over the long term to make sure you're successful for many, many years to come. Quite simply, the absolute best starting place for 99% of the people that just want to have an active lifestyle and be healthy and be able to do all the things they want to be able to do and love to do with their kids or their friends or whatever is to start with cardio. It's very simple, might seem overly simplistic to you right now, but I can tell you, like I said, with thousands and thousands of one-on-one trainings that I've done and plans that I've provided, cardio is the #1 place to start. Now, there are 2 types of cardio. There's recovery cardio and there's interval training. Recovery cardio in particular, nobody ever talks about because it's really just getting outside and enjoying yourself and getting your heart rate up a little bit and doing this on a consistent basis. Recovery cardio is incredibly important for it will improve almost all medical conditions you can think of. It's good for your whole body, like for digestion and for your heart and your ability to sleep. And there are so many vast benefits from just doing recovery cardio that you really can't overlook it. The other type of cardio is interval training. This is the stuff that you see with the media all the time. All the programs that are out there, all the videos and DVDs, they're all built around the premise that if you do interval training, that you're going to get all the goals that you want. It's a bit of a half-truth because without the recovery cardio in between, you're setting yourself up, like I said earlier in the video, for obstacles that you don't even know are coming. So if you push yourself too hard and you're only doing interval training, you're not doing any recovery, and then all of a sudden your knee is sore and you don't really know why. Maybe you're moving a little funny because when you're pushing yourself really hard, things change with your body, you're exhausted. And if that's all you're doing and you're not teaching your body to recover, then that kind of, especially, we see this all the time, knee pain, hip pain, back pain, it really derails completely what you're trying to achieve, whether it's weight loss or building stamina or any of those other things that, most people know are the benefits of exercising. You don't want to come across these problems. So what I'm going to go through in the next few minutes is we're going to talk about how to build it exactly into your schedule and how to find really the right balance between recovery cardio and interval training. So the first thing I want you to do is, and if you have to pause the video to do this, you can do that, is pull up your schedule for the next 6 weeks. You want to just, some sort of calendar view over the next 6 weeks. And what I want you to do is look at every day, and up to 6 days a week, I want you to fill in a spot there, so you're scheduling something for you to do that's going to take about 30 to 40 minutes to do. So go ahead and do that now. Build as many spots in as you can, and like I say, the only rule is you really want to take 1 day off a week. Okay, so now that you've done that, I want you to look at every individual week, and and the reason I go through, some people will go through that exercise. Well, my routine's the same all the time, and I just do I put it in at 7 o'clock every day, and it never changes. A lot of us work, various different types of schedules, so I like to do that first to make sure that, okay, well, I'm away here and I'm traveling there, and really sort of fit it in so that it really makes the most sense. So really make sure before you go any further that what you've put in there and how often you're going to exercise really makes sense. Then you look at each individual week, and I want you to write down the number of training sessions you have for every given week, and just write at the end or whatever. So this week you have 6 trainings, then the next week you have 5, and then 6 again, or something like that. Just write them down on the side. The other thing you're going to write down is, so if the first week you have 6 trainings, you put 6, and then put just a backslash, and I want you to write, the second number I want you to write is half of that. And if you come up with, if it's 5 and it's 2.5, then just put 2. Don't put a 0.5. So in the first column, let's say we have 6 days that you're going to exercise. So you have a 6/3. Now, what those two numbers represent are how many days a week you're training and how many of those days are interval training. So my rule to find a really good balance between recovery training and interval training is that recovery training should be 50% or more of all of your cardio training. So that means, like I said, if you're doing 6 days, then 3 of those can be intervals. If you're doing 5 days of training, then only 2 of them can be intervals, and so on and so forth like that. So make sure you have both numbers written down for each week. And then what we're going to do is you're going to put in just an R for recovery or an I for interval in all of those little boxes that you put for your schedule. So what I want you to start with, the first thing you start with is recovery for the week. And simply, the easiest way to do this is just keep alternating them back and forth. Okay, if there's some reason that you want to do a couple of recovery training sessions in a row, that's fine, but never do interval training sessions in a row. You want a recovery training at the very least in between each interval training session. Okay, so once you've done that with your sheet, now we're going to talk about my rules for recovery training and how to properly structure your interval training so that you're successful with it. So when it comes to recovery training, there's a few rules that I follow. The number one rule is you have to enjoy it. So you got to find something you like to do. Some people like to bike, walk, jog, whatever. But find an activity that you like. Get outside, enjoy the outdoors, that sort of thing. I don't want you to push yourself so hard you get back and you just hate the whole thing. So find something that you like to do that's going to give you a little bit of peace of mind. The other thing is the intensity that you work at. So if we look at a scale from 1 to 10, if 1 was sitting on a couch and 10 was, a full-out sprint for 5 seconds, then I don't want you to exit out of a 3 or a 4. When we're doing recovery work, a 3 or 4 on 10 is the absolute perfect zone for that. So really make sure that, whatever, if you took a walking path, that none of that walking path will bring you above a 4 on 10. And you want to be able to, my third rule is keep this activity between that 3 and 4 for 30 minutes consecutively. Now, it is true that some of us with really messed up schedules, whether you're in and out of meetings or things like that, you have difficult obstacles throughout the day, you can split this up into 10 or 15-minute segments. But the preferred method for me, and one of the things that this does, it really helps to prioritize it for you and build it in as a lifestyle is to really take the half an hour to do your recovery work or do your workout. The next thing is it has to bring your heart rate up. So the 3 or 4 on 10 rule for intensity, and this is what we call perceived exertion, is going to make sure that it brings your heart rate up a little bit. Certainly I've worked with people before, they just, maybe they never did it before and don't like to sweat and, they want exercise that maybe doesn't make them sweat too much. The reality is, if it's not bringing your temperature up a little bit or bringing your heart rate up and getting you into that right perceived exertion, you're not going to get the benefits out of it. So going outside and just strolling along at a really slow pace is marginally better than sitting on the couch, but not a lot. So don't be afraid to, get your heart rate up and keep it in that perceived exertion, how you feel between a 3 and 4 on 10, and do it continuously. And the last rule, and the thing that I tend to be talking to clients a lot about is, especially if they're walking or jogging, which most people do because that doesn't require a lot of equipment, just put some shoes on, go outside, is to be as quiet as possible. Now, there's a specific reason why I ask my clients to be quiet. If I put them on a treadmill or we go outside and we go for a run together and I watch the way they're running or moving, or maybe they had problems in the past, maybe you've had problems with your knees or stuff in the past. One of the simplest ways to make running or walking easier is to be as quiet as possible, because that's going to make you more efficient. The other thing it's going to do is going to decrease the impact on your body overall. So, we could go into more specifics of it, but what I really just want you to try and keep in mind when you're going outside is be as quiet as possible. One thing you can pay attention to is that foot slap. When you put your foot down and you're slapping the ground, you're making a little bit of noise like that, that's the kind of inefficiency that you want to get rid of. So let's go on to talk about interval training. Now, I only have a couple of rules for interval training. The first of which is you have to build up slowly. One of the things that absolutely drives me nuts about the mass media right now in the fitness world is they're telling people to start high-intensity intervals and start them right away with no integration process at all. And what this is leading to is excessive joint wear and tear. It leads to injury. It leads to demotivation, and there's all kinds of negatives that are associated with, just go out and work as hard as you can for 15 seconds and then take a minute off. You have to build up to these things if you want to make them last for years to come. The other rule is really making sure that, and I'll talk about it more specifically when we look at the sheet in a second, but for the intervals themselves, there has to be a difference in the perceived exertion between the recovery time and the actual high-intensity interval. But not so much, when a lot of people are doing intervals these days, what they're doing is they're doing high-intensity stuff followed by nothing at all. Well, that's not how I build my intervals. I build my intervals on basically your recovery run. So the easiest it ever gets is that 3 or 4 on 10, and then everything else we do is above a 3 or 4 on 10, and then we come back to it. And this is really going to help you take all that recovery work you're doing and build on it and make all of your systems stronger and more able to deliver oxygen. And when it comes to things like losing weight, especially this tool, high interval training tool, is the second best thing you could ever use to lose weight. And again, it's another reason why the big fitness media companies are jumping all over this and trying to sell you this, because it has research behind it, and it's easy to build fun programs around it, and it's easy to sell to you. Like I said, you have to keep that balance between the recovery and the interval. So let's get right into it. I'm going to show you the sheet, and I'm going to show you exactly how to follow each line and build yourself over time. Okay, so this is the interval training sheet that I use, and if you look here in the first column, it says stage number, and you'll see stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and it continues on like that. And then within each stage, there's stage 1A, B, C, and all of them have various renditions of this. First, we'll just look across at what all of these things mean, all the different columns mean, and then we'll talk about how to structure your actual workout. So stage 1A, that's just the stage label. In the second column, it says week. This is, and you'll see why in a few seconds, but this is just a general guideline for progression. You don't necessarily need to follow this exactly, and I'll show you when and when not to. The next column is a warm-up time. So it's 4 minutes across the board here, and a warm-up. It's just at your recovery pace. Just get yourself going, and whether you're doing your interval training on a bike or a treadmill or outside or whatever, you can just get yourself moving, get into your recovery zone, before you start doing any work. The actual interval set itself is between here and here, and it's split into two separate zones. So the first one is the work zone. So this is the more intense part of the workout, and the second part is the rest zone, and it's written here in seconds. So for your work time, for 60 seconds, you're going to do enough work to be in zone 3 low. So I'll explain exactly what the zones are, but suffice it to say right now that this is slightly harder than your recovery zone. You do it for 60 seconds. Once that 60 seconds is up, then you go into the rest zone. This one says for 120 seconds. This is an entry-level interval, so it gives you a full 2 minutes to recover. And by the end, or close to the end of the recovery time, the rest time, you should feel like you're back down into your recovery zone. Then you repeat this, alternating back and forth between work and rest 6 times. Once you've done it 6 times, you cool down for 4 minutes, again in your recovery zone, and the total time for this workout is 26 minutes. Now, we'll talk about the rest zone itself first, because it's really important that you understand that in the given amount of time, whether it's 120 seconds or a minute and a half or a minute, that before you go back to your work zone, that you should feel like you're back into recovery mode. If you still feel before the end of the rest period that you're not fully recovered, you're still exhausted, don't start the next interval yet. Extend it out a little bit until you do feel like you're back into the recovery zone, and then start your interval again. The whole idea of this diminishing amount of rest time is to allow your body to learn how to recover more quickly. The other thing, so now if we talk about the work zone itself, if you look right beside it, it tells you exactly what zone to work in. Zone 3 low goes until stage 3, stage 4 goes to zone 3 high, and etc., zone 4 and zone 5. If we go all the way down the bottom here, what I want you to look at is just the perceived exertion. So when we talk about a recovery zone, zone 1 low or zone 1 high, that's between your 3 and 4 on 10. That's where you should be doing all your recovery work, but it's also your rest time. The other zones, as we progress, obviously you see here, it just goes to zone 2 is a 5 on 10, then 6, 7, 8, 9, until a 10 on 10. So zone 3 low right here is a 6 on 10. So once you start your work, once you start the work part of your interval, you want to, as quickly as possible, get yourself so that you're working at about a 6 on 10, and not higher than that. So you don't want to, whatever interval you start with, or you're working with that day, you want to stick specifically to the zone that it tells you there. So if you feel like you've overextended yourself, your work interval is not quite finished, but you feel like it's a 7 or an 8, you have to slow yourself down. And then, so then we look from there, and I want to look at the actual progression itself. So because everybody's a little bit different, it's one of the reasons why I built this sheet. The way I built it is you might do stage 1A and find that it's just really, really easy and it's not challenging for you at all. Instead of going through the progression and going through to 1B and then 1C, what I want you to do, if that's the case for you, is go to 2A. Try that interval, and if you find the same thing, go to 3. If you find the same thing, go to 4. Eventually what will happen is you'll find a zone, you'll find an interval set that's challenging for you. And it doesn't need to be leave you panting on the floor the first couple of times. You need to recognize that, yes, this is a little bit more challenging for me. This is a good place to start. So let's say you decided that 4A, yeah, that's a pretty good interval for you, considering the work time is a little bit shorter, but the rest time is shorter as well, and you like that one. So what I want you to do from that point on is you're going to start progressing either week to week or every second week. So it depends on how many intervals you're doing. So if that week you only have three times that you're going to work out that week, and only one of them is intervals, then definitely extend it out. Maybe you do that interval set for 2 weeks. If you're doing 2 or 3 interval workouts that week, then each week you can progress yourself to the next interval set. So, and what you'll notice between the A and B and C of any given stage is the amount of actual intervals you're doing. So that's how that in each stage, that's how that's progressing you. So 8, 10, or 12 sets of the full interval itself. Okay.
Then what you'll do is you'll progress yourself down until you get to a point where you really feel like it's really getting taxing on you, and it's almost maybe you feel like it's impossible to maintain. That's fine. Wherever you end up, you fast forward a bunch of weeks, maybe you get to the stage 8 and it's just too much for you. That's perfectly fine. Not everybody starts at the beginning. Not everybody goes to the end. But what I want you to do is go back to where you started and do the whole thing again. And what you're going to find is where you started is much easier than it was when you first started it. And as you progress yourself through this again, you'll actually be able to do more. And over the weeks, months, years, you'll see that your whole work zone, where your start and end is, progressively gets stronger and stronger over time. A couple of other things I just want to highlight before we let this go is the step breathing and the heart rate. The test result zone, that's actually a spot that I use when I test my clients and I give them specific heart rate zones to work in. But for your purposes now, you can use the heart rate if it's a 50%, and there are calculations for all of this. But the two that I use the most are the perceived exertion, because it's highly correlated to the amount of effort and the heart rate that I'm trying to target for you, but also step breathing. So if you're going to walk or especially jog or run, this is a really great system that I came up with myself to make sure that you're working in the right zone and you're getting the maximum amount of benefits. So how this works is this number is, it's got two numbers to it. And the first number is how many steps you're breathing in for, and the second number is how many steps you're breathing out for. So what it does is it actually regulates your breathing, how much oxygen you are consuming or able to intake to consume, and it's forcing you to extend out, at least especially in zone 1, low and high. It's forcing you to extend out and relax your breathing a little bit more. So for most recovery work, I get my clients to work in this 4-4 zone. So for 4 steps, you're breathing in. For 4 steps, you're breathing out. And you really try and maintain that the whole time. For the interval training itself, you'll do that for your recovery. You get yourself to a 4-4 when you're recovering in your rest zone. Once you can do a 4-4 and you're comfortable again, then you go back to your work zone. And if it's a zone 3 low, then you transition yourself to a 3-3. And that means you push yourself as hard as you can without letting your system force you to breathe any faster. So if you actually work too hard, your body will start to force you to breathe at a 3-2 or a 2-2 because it's just demanding more oxygen. If you can't maintain this breathing rate during your work zone, then you'll have to slow down. Okay, so you can test that out if you're a jogger, runner, walker. You can use that system. Otherwise, just use the perceived exertion system. If you're looking for a little bit more information on that stuff or reminders, it's all down here at the bottom.
Okay, so now you have your exercise plan, at least for the next 6 weeks, set up, what days you're going to be doing what, and how to follow the interval training and what your recovery training should be. And I want to leave you with my motto. So how to make sure that you're following your plan and really, waking up every day motivated to do it. So my motto is a little bit of psychology behind it, but goes like this. You say to yourself every morning, I don't have to train every day, but I do have to train today. Now, the psychology behind it is when you say to yourself, I don't have to train every day, what we're talking about the past. So I don't care what happened yesterday, if you had in your plan that you had to do your interval training or whatever it was that you had to do, and you got derailed. Life happens sometimes, and sometimes we could have been more accountable to ourselves and we should have gotten to it. The reality is, it's past. It doesn't matter. All that really matters is what's happening right now. So you continue on to say to yourself, I do have to train today. So whether it's in your schedule or not, even if you don't have exercise in your schedule, you try and keep yourself active and moving around, and so that you're not just sitting around all day. But especially if you do have something scheduled in your day that you're supposed to get to that day, you got to start making that a priority. You're living for today, and you're building this into your lifestyle, so make sure that you have another quick look at your schedule first thing in the morning and how you're going to build yourself around that slot for exercise that you've already put into your schedule. So really make sure it happens. So what I want you to do is I want you to wake up every morning and you say to yourself, I don't have to train every day, but I do have to train today. The other thing is, I'd love feedback and comments. So if you can write a comment on what you thought of the video, whether it's helpful, it wasn't helpful, maybe other questions you have, something that didn't make sense, any of that is perfectly fine and very welcome by me. It helps me to make sure I'm growing the program properly and giving the right information and that you're getting everything that you need. In the next video, I'm going to go through the second step that you absolutely must tackle as soon as possible to make sure that you're successful for the long run. So leave me a comment, and I will see you in the next video.